soon as I can get this going. So slideshow from beginning, away we go. All right, this is a relatively new program from our office, and it is an extension of our Preventing Senior Fraud, the Nebraska Senior Anti-Fraud Education Program. We came up with it specifically because we're trying to produce more and more preventative measures to prevent our seniors from being unduly exploited. We find that preventative measures are about 80% effective, whereas the curative measures about 20% effective. So we're doing as much as we can to put more and more preventative measures into practice. Reasons why. If you've seen the Senior Anti-Fraud Education Program, we spell out the fact that our seniors here in Nebraska are being unduly targeted. They're only 19% of our population, but 35% of our complaints during calendar year 2017. That's a ratio of approximately 2 to 1, rounding up generously, targeting our seniors solely on the basis of age. But we have other study data available to us that tells us that we have severe underreporting, and that the actual incurred rate of fraud is over 20 times greater than the reported rate. If the reported rate to our office is 35% of all complaints, can you imagine what the real incurred rate of fraud and abuse is? Then it has negative impact. That negative impact is that through other study data available, there is a mortality gradient whereby seniors exposed to fraud and abuse are 5 times more likely to suffer decreased life expectancy, directly tied to that exploitation and abuse that they've incurred. So whatever we can do to put more preventative measures into the marketplace is to the long-term health benefits of our aging population. But the key question then becomes, how are our seniors being exploited? And through FTC study data made available to us, this is listing from left to right in rank order the primary methods of conduct, or contact I should say, by these professional scam artists, with 70% being predominantly by phone, either landline or cell phone. Then you can see email, website, and the others. But when you correlate the method of contact to the percentage of loss, with 2 out of every 3 of these methods of contact resulting in loss, you can see that it's the technology-driven components, specifically with email and with websites, that are leading to higher levels of consumer loss. Now, I have seen this throughout my outreach activities, especially this year, working with a number of you in and around area agencies on aging, the state unit on aging, independent living, assisted living facilities. And as I talk with your clients, the seniors present, I'm finding out that they are unwittingly granting entree to these professional scam artists because they don't know what it is that they don't know. And so we came up with 4 lessons in cybersecurity to help the senior population with what many here in this room might consider rudimentary basics. But we wanted to provide coaching and counsel as a preventative measure in terms of how do you safely use computers and software? How do you safely use your smartphone, which is a bit redundant because your smartphone today is a computer with software, a powerful computer with software. How might you then safely surf the internet? And in your internet surfing, how might you safely use social media? Those are the 4 lessons. I'll go through them quickly. The TEL component is relatively short. There's about 4 or 5 bullet points that I think are largely self-explanatory, but then I want to do a copious amount of showing and have you thinking how this message might translate in your constituencies and communities, because we are happy to partner with you to deliver this as program content within your community so that we can continue to educate, raise awareness, and better protect in a preventative manner Nebraska's seniors. So we will begin with the safe use of computers and software. Here is the TEL slide. The TEL slide begins with keeping a clean machine by installing and regularly updating operating system software, firewalls, antiviruses, and anti-spyware programs, and then the importance, which cannot be stressed enough, I know it sounds rudimentary and basic to many of us here, of making sure that our password hygiene is routine and that our passwords are long and strong. The other bullets, especially the one with pop-ups and emails that are offering free gifts and offers that are too good to be true, I'm going to cover later, more specifically in the internet web surfing portion. But I'd like to begin by, most seniors are unaware of really what's going on under the hood of the car, so to speak, in their computer. You do not need to know how the internal combustion engine works in order to drive a car. You get behind the wheel and go. The same too with your computer. So the seniors are not going to be as inclined to think and be aware of, oh, there's a lot going on under the hood and I need to apply some routine maintenance to that engine to allow it to continue to perform at the high level that I want it to perform. So we need to coach and counsel the seniors that they have to keep a clean machine by turning on, in this example, in a Windows-based environment, the automatic updates, which will patch and update the software. Virus protection for the ongoing threats to the system, which are going to undermine its performance from viruses. Then there's anti-malware, there's anti-spyware, and there's a newer term that you need to be aware of, which is anti-exploit. Then there is Windows Defender. In this case, Windows Defender is a firewall. A firewall is going to basically make sure that the doors and windows of your computer, no pun intended on Windows, are shut and locked so that bad actors can't have easy entree to the machine. Most of the professional scam artists are genuinely lazy individuals. They are trying to find path of least resistance to get in to do their damage. If you haven't made the patches, if you don't have the firewall turned on, then you're granting them the easiest access to come in and do their damage. So this is just a basic belt and suspenders, locking the door measure, but it can be turned on and it can be automated to never disrupt your use of the machine by making sure that the updates occur nightly while you're sleeping. Now, password, regimen, and hygiene. Why this is important. A slide not in this presentation is the basis for this, but it comes from the Verizon Data Breach Investigations report. And in that investigatory report, which is published every year in May, so it was just released within the past 30 days, it makes the point over and over again that 81% of the successful data breaches exploit common, stolen, or rudimentary basic passwords. For example, the most popular password in America is password. So what they are recommending is making passwords long and strong. Here is why. A 6-character password, which was very common within, let's say, the turn of the century, so about 18 years ago. Husker is a 6-character password. Would take less than a second in order to crack it. To prove that longer is stronger, if we go to 10 characters, we now go to 10.5 hours to crack that password. Just the permutations and combinations to unlock, if you will, a 10-character password. So longer is definitely better. But stronger is what we're trying to lead you to, and that is to look at the characters on the keyboard above the numbers and to pepper your password somewhere within the password string with the symbol. We take the 6-character Husker password and we might add in an odd symbol and voila, we go up to 1.3 minutes and you think, Ryan, what's your point? That's silly, that's hardly worth it. 1.3 minutes doesn't offer any greater security. But if you stop and think, that is 3,800 times stronger. 3,800 times stronger. So where I'm going is the 10 characters plus the symbol. And 10 characters plus a symbol, 3,800 times, 10.5 hours. I should be in the 4 to 6 month range. You'd be surprised. It would take half a century to crack your password. So you're now perplexed. Your name is Ryan or Barb or Dave, and you were born in 57, 60, 77, what have you. That's still not sophisticated enough. You're thinking, how do I come up with a long and strong password? Well, we can help the senior by taking them to password generators, which are available for free online. This is Norton, the provider of an online security suite that you can download online, and that you can install this on your laptop or desktop computer. What I like about this password generator is you can see on the far right column that you can create passwords of any length. You can choose upper, lowercase, odd numbers and symbols, no repeated characters. You punch the button and you will definitely get a strong and secure password. You will have to write it down because it will be very difficult to remember. And so please don't write it down on a Post-it note and then put the Post-it note on your computer screen. That is not necessarily the most secure means. This is a useful tool, but I want the seniors to have fun and not to be intimidated by the technology. This is what I would drive them to. This is a website known as My One Login. And under the Resources tab, which is their mid-page, you pull down this password strength checker. And you can type in your password, and if you want to see your password, there's a small box there that says Show Password, and you can just begin typing away whatever your password is. This is a reverse stoplight indicator. If you have a weak password, it's going to show up as red, tell you that it's weak, why it's weak, and encourage you to try again. A fair to Midland will show up as yellow, caution, good, could be better. And then if you put in a very strong password, as done here, it will tell you how strong it is, why it's strong, and then you see in the 39 centuries, that box is the time that it would take to crack your password. So you can have tons of fun. I had a password that took 823 years to crack. Then I was at a local business here in Lincoln, and someone took me up on the challenge with My One Login and came back and said, Ryan, I'm up to like 10 centuries, and I felt challenged. So this is my actual password now, 39 centuries, I win. Now, safely using smartphones. As I mentioned in the intro, a smartphone is by any definition a very powerful computer and software set. I say that using this meme. It is accurate. We got to the moon and back with a computer far less powerful than what you have today in your smartphone. By that, the guidance and navigation system of the Apollo spacecraft and the lunar excursion module attached there too, 140,000 lines of computer code to handle all of the complex math, geometry, physics, whatnot, to get man to the moon and back. By comparison, the typical app today, let's take the Weather Channel because that's a common app, is 100 to 110,000 lines of code. But if you're at all typical of any smartphone user, you have 2 to 3 dozen apps and growing on your phone, and you probably access 8, 10, 12 of those on a daily or weekly basis. If every one is operating in that 100 to 110,000 line code arena, and you have dozens, all being managed by the CPU, the fast chip at the heart of the smartphone, you can see that today's smartphone is easily yesterday's supercomputer and a very powerful computer by any definition in use today. So, in terms of the TEL portion of this section, keep up with updates is just a reiteration of keep a clean machine. But we think of it less on our phone. We take that component, that software component of our phone, a little bit more for granted because we're thinking of what the phone can do, less how it operates. But in the background, you have an operating system that needs to be kept routinely updated, and you can search using your favorite search engine, the phone manufacturer's website, to find what the most current software iteration is. Apple does this almost proactively, pushing notifications to you, and they update multiple times within a year. 11.4 just came out at the end of last month. We'll be moving to 12.0 by the late August, early September timeframe. Android 8.0, also known as Oreo, is now approaching its anniversary date and should be updated within the year. Bullets 2 and 3 regarding remote connectivity and knowing your apps are really playing off of a lot of what Amy was sharing with us all. What an outstanding monitoring device our personal smartphones are in terms of tracking and sharing information about us. and, in Ryan's opinion, not the boss's opinion, invading our privacy. There are ways that you can be aware of what you're sharing and then take control to limit or to prevent that sharing. And then at the bottom, the blocking of nuisance calls. If there's one point that I hear and hear again and again is that our seniors especially are saying, can you do something about these infernal, what they call telemarketing calls that are in fact scam calls? Can you do something to reduce the calls? Yes, but I also want to help you help yourselves. There are things that we can do collectively in our phones discreetly to block numbers one at a time, or globally through apps that we can put on our phone that will block all calls for us, that can help alleviate the problem until the providers themselves, the Sprints, the Verizons, the AT&Ts, are more empowered, as they will be through FCC actions to come, to start blocking these calls at the source. So keeping up with updates, you need to get in typically under the settings function of your phone. Here is an Android, a Galaxy Note 8, and you can see, as I've highlighted there in the red circle, it tells you what version of software that you're running. In the iPad environment here, since we're talking all digital devices, you can go in under General, and it will quickly tell you what current software iteration you have. This is the latest, which is the 11.4, which is now approximately 3 weeks old. Then I highly recommend, so that you're not being exposed in terms of your personal data, and this is something that a senior, I believe, almost certainly would not know, is that if you're ever using public Wi-Fi is not secure. So the security protocols are open and doing nothing to keep your confidential data secure when you're on the Wi-Fi at the McDonald's, the Burger King, the Starbucks, the Panera in this example. And then they will ask to remember you as well, which means you'll automatically connect to their Wi-Fi each time you enter the store. Why this puts you at danger is something known as a man-in-the-middle attack. I can be in that same coffee shop at the Starbucks. I can set up a hotspot that mimics the Starbucks router connection to the internet. Starbucks has a national relationship with AT&T. When you connect to the Wi-Fi at Starbucks, you're almost always looking for AT&T Wi-Fi connection. But if I'm staging a man-in-the-middle attack, I've used that hotspot to mimic the router, and I show up as free Starbucks Wi-Fi. And you go, that's what I want, and you connect to free Starbucks Wi-Fi. What you're doing is you're connecting to me, the man in the middle, and you're passing all of your data through me, and I'm connecting you then to the AT&T Wi-Fi router, stripping off all of your data in plain text. That's a man in the middle. By shutting off in a toggled setting here, the auto join and auto login, you're preventing that so that you have to consciously connect each and every time so that you're not inadvertently giving up your data. In the iPhone arena, location services is something else that is somewhat dangerous in terms of advertising where you are. We work a lot in terms of trying to prevent exploitation of children, child predators and the like. Many times GPS coordinates are embedded in photos that children might be taking and sharing on Instagram and others. So I routinely recommend that you take location services off or turn it off your phone. How you would do that, location services is widely available here in the iPhone. It will show you in the middle column exactly what apps are asking for your location, and you can toggle on or off that I want this app to always use and access my location, only use it while I'm using the app, or never use it. I recommend that you keep this off in virtually every instance. Unless you're a road warrior like me, I want to make sure that I have the map function working. I want to make sure I have the weather function working. And then if I'm looking for restaurants, I'm going to have the TripAdvisor or the Yelp function working. But everything else, I'll keep toggled off, and I'll only toggle it on when I need it. Also, there's some education in terms of what the little odd arrow indicators use regarding location services, and you can see based on color coding, it tells you how recent the request has been for using your information. So this is close to real-time updating as to what information regarding your whereabouts you're giving up. Then, other privacy concerns regarding apps through the permissions component, and Amy touched on this as well. But I mentioned earlier that your smartphone is an outstanding tracking device because there are so many tracking identifiers on the phone itself. There is a device identifier. There is an operating system identifier. There is a network identifier in terms of who are you connecting with, the Sprint network, the AT&T network, the Verizon network, and then there's an applications identifier. What this survey, which was done in the Android environment and was published in Information Week, was to measure of the top 180, give or take, most popular apps, what level of information were they trying to gather on the user. And they found that over 40% of the time they were getting down to the device level identifier. That's known as a mobile equipment identifier. That's hard-coded onto the phone. Think of it as the social security number of the device. If your phone is on, you're broadcasting the mobile equipment identifier to the cell phone tower closest to your location and to 2 others so that your location can be triangulated and you can be found. It's inescapable. I, for the life of me, do not know why an app would need to track your specific device and specific location, therefore. Then the personal information, which I've highlighted there in red as well, 33% of the time what they're asking for here is not only permission to look at your contacts, who are you calling, who's calling you, but more specifically the permission to read and parse your text messages. It's known as SMS or short message service, both inbound and outbound. Again, 1 out of every 3 of these most popular apps, and I've published the icons for at least 3 of them. Why does Angry Birds need to know that? You should be empowered, and the way that you can fight back, I'll get to in the next screen, but just to tell you how prevalent and persistent this is, Amy made a point about how the ads are being personalized to topics of interest, maybe tied to our most recent Google search. There's a widespread perception that the app is listening to me through the microphone on the smartphone, and that's how it's knowing exactly what ads to push to me. It's more exactly like what Amy described, but in this instance, and this is published in the late March Wall Street Journal from which I clipped this, we had a young lady who, at the end of cold and flu season, had mentioned to her husband that she needed a decongestant, and if he was near the Walgreens or near whatever store, that if he would pick up some Sudafed, that would be beneficial. Wasn't more than an hour or so later, she picks up her phone, there's an ad for Sudafed. It's listening to me through my microphone. No, actually what's going on here is that at the beginning of cold and flu season, she had been in a convenience store and she picked up Afrin and Kleenex. Then she went to check out and she went, oh, I need my loyalty points. So she typed in at the keypad her phone number. There is a data aggregator. There are many data aggregators, but in the instance here, it was Nielsen, the same people who do the TV ratings also do this type of in-store data aggregation. The biggest company in America is called Axicom. They do it as well. That's out of Little Rock, Arkansas. But they took the keyed telephone number, they correlated it to her social media account. From her social media account, they then did other data aggregation and they sold it. One of the companies that they sold it to was Johnson & Johnson. Johnson & Johnson makes Sudafed. They said, well, we're getting towards the end of cold and flu season, but the people most likely to have colds and flus at this time of the year are individuals 25 to 54. Give us everybody in your area who meets that description, and we'll push ads out to them. And they did so right down to the device identifier label. So this is why it's so important. But this is how big data works today. So you fight back by downloading and putting onto your phone an app permissions manager. I've made the parenthetical that this is especially true for Android. Android apps are greater in number, but they're open source systems and they don't have the same rigors of testing and evaluation that the iPhone apps do. And they manage permissions entirely differently. So you're well served to have an app permissions manager if you're an Android user. Pick one among the many. They are free. Download, install, open it, and what you ask it to do is to interrogate your phone and then bring back in rank order by number of permissions what permissions these apps are asking of you through your device every time you use the app. If you say, oh my God, Amazon has 56 permissions, you then click, you review that list of permissions, and within the app you can toggle on or toggle off these apps. So it puts you back in control. The iPhone wants you to do this within the phone itself on an app-by-app basis, and there's only 4 levels of permissions that they'll basically grant you, but they are pretty all-encompassing and still very, very good. But you need to be aware that you are leaking information like a sieve, and stop the leaks. Then, blocking the nuisance calls. Within the smartphone, and I'm amazed how many seniors don't know this, but you go in under your recents, which is the blue button there at the bottom of the phone. That pulls up your call history. Then if you see a telephone number that turned out to be Rachel from Card Services saying this is your last time to reduce your credit card interest rate, on the far right of the number is an I within a circle. Touch the I, it pulls you up to this page. Scroll to the bottom and you can see I've blocked this caller. Touch that with your finger, that caller is blocked forever. In the Android, they're a little bit click happy, but they also have a very rich feature set. You would go up to the settings, I've got that boxed in blue. Then you would go in under call blocking. Further within call blocking, you can create a block list. You can even be Nebraska nice and give a nice call reject message if you prefer. Or you can then go in and create and add any number to your call blocking list, or simply toggle this switch here that says block anonymous calls. And what this will do is anyone who shows up as anonymous, out of area, caller unknown, or private caller, your phone will no longer ring. They'll get a recorded voice announcement that says that the number you are dialing does not accept calls at this time. Please input your number now to be connected. Question?
I keep getting these calls, the same ones, but they change every day. I get them from a different state.
Okay.
Or they say push 2 to go on our non-call list or whatever, but it doesn't let you do that. But
okay. For those not in the room, the question is about the persistence of nuisance calls where the number continues to change, or more routinely now, the number appears to be within the local calling area. These are all indications of spoofed telephone numbers. There is software that is available on the dark web, as Amy had indicated, that is surprisingly cheap. You implement that software and it strips off the ANI or the CLI, the calling line identifier, what is passed to us as caller ID, and allows you to substitute any telephone number that you would so choose. They substitute a randomly chosen number from the local calling area more often than not, all as a way to overcome your resistance to answering the phone. Most of us recognize that, hey, if I don't recognize the number, I'm not going to answer the call, I'll let it go to voicemail. But boy, when it comes from the local exchange, that's very, very powerful in small town Nebraska. Oh, that's a Pleasanton number. Gosh, I know everybody in Pleasanton. I'll risk answering. Then the push 2 to be put on our do not call list, that is a ruse. The Autodialer that's making that call to you is trying to find live answer working telephone numbers.
Is that the why they call you and as soon as you say hello, they hang up? They're
Not-
just finding out if that number has a.
Not
human being
necessarily.
there?
Most of the time on an Autodialer, there is something that is known as a predictive dialer. A predictive dialer is a component that measures the audio tone that's coming back to you, and based on the decibels registered, it can tell if it is a central office voicemail, which is the purest tone, if it's a live tone, which is the second most pure, or if it's the please leave a message at the beep, the answering machine. And then it can measure based on was it live answer, what's the time, it logs that, and then that's why they start hounding calls to you in that hour and time frame. But when you push the 2 to be taken off the do not call, you're just telling the predictive dialer, I'm here, you reached me at 11:45 on a Tuesday. That'd be a great time to try reaching me again. So, you can block nuisance calls. If you don't want to do it within the phone, do it globally through an app. The 2 most popular apps, and I've done this in Google Play, you can do the exact same in the App Store, is Mr. Number, that's the one on the bottom left, and on the bottom right, True Caller. This is based on the number of downloads, which measures in the millions, and the highest user ratings, which is 4 to 4.5 stars for both of these programs. Virtually all of these work the same. I'm not advocating for any, I'm just telling you what the most popular are. Give them a try. I think that you will like them. I've been doing this now for a number of years as part of the 11 days at the Nebraska State Fair, 12 hours a day. A lot of people want to talk about this. Here, give me your phone, put this on it. No. I tell them about these, and I have people coming back the next year or the year following saying those work great. So try these yourself and share these with those that you love who fall into the senior segment that we're trying to protect. Safely surfing the internet as we have 15 minutes to go. Here's the TEL slide. Practice safe browsing by not tempting fate. Just walk the straight and narrow, walk through the clean neighborhood. Don't go through the south side of Chicago day or night unless you have a reason to be there. That's the point that I'm making. Again, making sure that your internet connection is sure. This is getting back to the Starbucks example that free Wi-Fi is not secure Wi-Fi. I also want to make everyone aware that the majority of us now at home are accessing the internet over a Wi-Fi connection. If you haven't upgraded your router in the past, 2 or 3 years, chances are that router is using an older, more routinely breached protocol. The current protocol is Wi-Fi protected access to PSK. It means pre-shared key. It means that you're a consumer or residential user, you're not authenticating off of a business server. But before you run out to the Best Buy or get online to Amazon and say, I've got to have a new router because I'm old WEP, which is like Swiss cheese. There are so many holes in that product. A scammer is going to drive right through it and steal your data. WPA3 is right now being implemented and should be widely available by the end of summer. That might be the best time. Also know that there is currently a very malicious form of malware that is going out. It's known as, I have to stop and think because this is new information. It's VPN, and I forget the VPN. Anyway, Google search this for VPN malware, and what will happen is that it will list about 30 different routers that are open doors to this Russian-based, highly malicious form of malware that is trying to do a drive-by and look for an open door on your router from which to then come in and capture your information. You can lock the door by doing a factory reset of your router, and if you're worried about doing a factory reset, then you can simply do a hard reboot, and that will at least delay the process until you can investigate further and then determine whether or not you need to buy an entirely new router or not. Here's part of the show in terms of only navigating safe neighborhoods. This is last month's top website rankings. Google, Facebook, and YouTube were numbers 1, 2, and 3. But some of the less safe neighborhoods that are known for malicious content and malware that is being put onto your phone surreptitiously. 6, 7, and 8 are all adult websites, as well as number 18. So if you would stay on the straight and narrow, though the temptation might confront you, know that when you walk through a bad neighborhood, don't be surprised if you get mugged. You can also practice safe browsing by avoiding clickbait and then malvertising, which I'll talk about. Clickbait is designed to pique your interest and get you to hover your cursor over and click and say, well, what are they talking about there? You might be attracted to there in the middle left, well, she's 51 but looks 25. Me, it would be, well, he's 205 but looks 160. That's where I want to be. But I mean in weight, not in age. But other forms, I mean, who's not going to click on this? 32 simple pleasures that might actually be better than sex? Okay, I'll spot you ice cream, but what are the other 31? I don't know. So you might click. And then I love this one. Which Taco Bell menu item speaks to you on a spiritual level? I guess for me that would be chalupa. But I mean, these are designed to get you to follow, to click. They will put spyware onto your machine, or they can deliver malicious payloads. So malvertising is a form of malicious payload, and this is very insidious. You are not going to know what this is, because what it is it's basically an invisible frame. It's known as an iframe, and it is contained within the banner and display ads on a web page. And they take a legitimate ad and then will substitute an illegitimate iframe. So you won't even know when that substitution is making, but your screen will be redirected. And on that redirect, the landing page of the redirect will deploy the malicious payload and capture your personal information and basically infect your machine. So what you need is the new anti-malware, but the anti-exploit software that I'm talking about. That's probably a newer term for most of you. Right now, if you're looking for a good one and wanting to pay a reasonable price, free, Malwarebytes not only has anti-malware, but has anti-exploit as well. Here is the #1 form of a malvertising. Most of us are aware of Adobe. Most of us want Flash because it's how we activate the video component of whatever it is that we'd like to watch on our machine. These have proven to be the highest number of malicious ads that are found. So avoid the temptation to click just because it's like, well, your software is out of date. That's a form of phishing. Moving on, the seniors need to know, because they want to be part of the 21st century. They want to be able to surf and buy things online, but we need to teach them to purchase from secure websites only. This is a slide that is indicative of what I call the threefold test, teaching a senior to look first and foremost, as Amy told us, HTTP, which is the unencoded plain text version of Hypertext Transfer Protocol, the language of the internet. When you're going to a secure site, you want the information that is being shared to be encrypted, scrambled. That's what I think of as for scrambled. It means secure. But we want to see that HTTPS. Then we want to see the padlock. Here's the padlock down in IE Explorer at the bottom. That padlock should be present and closed. And then in a number of cases for an SSL or a secure socket layer site, the clear background will go to green, or the typing within, if you're a Firefox user, goes from black to green. That's the threefold test. An indication of such, here is my Amazon account, and I was pretending that I would buy a case for my new iPhone. And just to show you, there's the S, if you can make it out, in the upper. That's pretty small. But there too is the padlock at the end of the URL, and then Amazon provides a second indication of padlock, that this information, as I'm about to put in my card payment information, is secure. But another level of security, I would encourage the senior to have a credit card that is specifically for making online purchases, or using a highly secure form of e-payment such as PayPal. And there are many others. I'm not advocating for PayPal, they're just the biggest. Then, Make sure that you're only shopping from reputable websites. Websites like, in this case, Dillard's, there's Super Target, there's Amazon. But in keeping with the notion that if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. If you think that you're going to get a Rolex Mariner, which is a $7,500 to $8,500 watch for $129, you're sadly mistaken. But there are websites that you will be taken to on a simple Google search that will lead you to believe that. Then, my dear mother-in-law, when she got her first computer, she kept getting pop-ups that would tell her things like, because you're today's lucky X number visitor, or because you have shopped on Amazon, you're entitled to a gift card. And all of these are come-ons. All of these are forms of phishing and potential malware. And here's an example of a phishing that's coming from Amazon that says basically your account has been limited or locked. You need to click on this link to verify information or download the latest version of our, and this is again a phishing attempt, which will ultimately steal your personal information. Here we have the Windows Tech Support scam showing up as a pop-up that your computer may be infected. Call this number and call it now. More seniors than I can count have fallen for this in the past 2 years as I traverse the state of Nebraska, especially when it's put in big letters and in red like this. And it looks to be, that's gotta be Microsoft. It's not. And it happens on your smartphone as well. These examples are so numerous and so impactful on an unsuspecting public that I'm almost driving this into the ground. But here on an Android phone are indications of prospective viruses or potential viruses. I love this one. This is the FBI saying that as a result of scanning your device, we've found that you have been on forbidden sites and therefore you are being penalized and you owe us $500 payable immediately. Or that your iTunes account has been suspended and therefore you click on this link. Just don't believe what you read. You can independently verify or contact someone more in the know to help you. Finally, in terms of using social media, here's the TEL slide. I want individuals to use privacy settings and then be selective as to who they're accepting as friends on their account. Why privacy settings? This is the Snapchat Terms of Service Agreement. Basically what it says is that when you send a snap, you are granting us everywhere in the world, forever and a day, without any thought, rhyme, or reason to having to compensate you for the use of your data, but we can profit from your data. The ability to do all of these things that I've listed in red on any technology platform that exists today, or if it doesn't exist today and is developed tomorrow, we own it there too, without having to come back. So you need to limit what the social media site can capture about you. That's done through privacy settings. Get to know this page in Facebook. It's the ultimate Burger King. You can have it your way. You can custom tailor it down to a gnat's eyelash, but it's designed to be complicated so that you don't. It's 50 different privacy settings with 170 different options. The workaround is to do a Google search that says, hey, what are the top 10 Facebook privacy settings? And here's Mashable, a site that I reference often. Here's Techlicious. You'll notice that not all top 10 lists are the same, but when you go through a number of these and see overlapping recommendations, which means the same setting mentioned on multiple sites, check to see that that site is enabled. Finally, any other cybersecurity tips, these slides are available to you on the website. Program in a case of emergency number, an ICE number, so that if your phone is lost, it can be returned to you. And if you do any type of banking online, when you're done checking your savings account balance or moving funds from savings into checking or making an e-payment, that you then sign out of the app. Finally, all of this is to preclude identity theft. The only measure that I want to make in closing on identity theft is that a security freeze is the best thing that you can do to prevent the potential loss of your identity through any of these notorious scams that steal your personal identifying information. A security freeze is a written directive that tells the credit reporting bureaus to not release your credit report to anyone at any time for any reason without your express prior permission. What's nice is that the charges associated with the security phrase are going to zero. We passed LB 757 at the end of February. It goes into effect 90 days after the end of session, which means the middle of July. It will be free to all Nebraskans. The Fed, drafting off our very good example, have stepped in, and now nationwide there will be no charges for a security freeze as of September. So more information is available on our identity theft repair kit, which is available on our consumer website, protectthegoodlife.nebraska.gov. That's a version of the website itself. You can file a complaint, report a scam, learn more about identity theft. And if you'd like to do a version of the 4 lessons, or take any of the lessons and make a 20-30-minute presentation out of it for your organization or group, simply contact us here at the Schedule a Presentation button, and we'll get that done, and we can offer customization so that we make sure we're hitting the mark with your clients in your respective markets. There's the contact information. Just keep in mind, I'm one of 4 Ryans in the Attorney General's office, so as always, ask for Chatty Ryan, Talkative Ryan, Traveling Ryan, Red-Faced Ryan, and they'll send you to me if they know who you are. Thank you for your time and attention.